Men, and today I use the term ever so loosely. We've reconfigured the shop a little bit. Well, and by that I mean I moved some stuff around. Over there is the Rat Rod No More bike. It's done except for the tins that the owner is painting right now. I'll get back on that when he shows up with the sheet metal parts. Back on the lift is my bike. You guys haven't seen that since, I don't know, May, April. I had 2 or 3 kind of unexpected full rebuilds come in that occupied all the time on the lift. The original plan was to work on engines while I had my bike on the lift to work on the chassis. Didn't quite work out that way, but anyway, my bike is back on the lift, and I'll be working on that sooner or later. Going to give a short shout out to the guys at Super Clean. They fixed me up with some more stuff, and I'm going to be doing some Super Clean videos in the future. But what I'm here to talk about today is the crate engine. As you can see, the lower end is back together. The oil pump has been primed. The rotating parts all rotate, so that is coming along fine. And today we're going to talk about a transmission main shaft race primarily. But first, I thought I'd give a overview of the carnage that was the crate engine. It's got some destruction going on in here. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's bad. So let's take a look at some of these pieces because it is kind of interesting. Pistons, pretty well melted. I don't remember whether this is front or rear. Both of them jacked up. This is a 40 over piston. I had to go to 60 over to clean up the bore. Here's the other piston. There's actually a hole right in here, and something, I don't know how the hell it happened, but something got jammed the hell in there. I don't know what this was. I never found out. I never found the piece that caused this. But anyway, cylinder bores correspondingly torn up. Oil pump breather. Big gouge over here. Tore this up pretty good. I think that the thing that caused this damage probably caused this damage. But what that thing was, I don't know. I assume that it came through the passageway in the crankcase, got jammed in there, and probably got shoved up into the breather. It was, like I say, this engine was apart when I got it, and I didn't get to see where all of the shrapnel ended up. Oops. Yeah, I've seen broken valve springs before, obviously, but Jesus, this is destroyed. The bike got all new Kibblewhite valves, Kibblewhite collars, keepers, and seats. So yeah, where along in the process the bike quit running, I don't know, but I often say this about Sportsters, they will run until they destroy themselves, and this one clearly was going down that path. Advanced mechanism flyweight. The holes are all wallered out, and it was real sloppy on there. It had been banging around so much, it cracked the roll pin, the stop. I mean, it's a split roll pin, and you could see the split over here, but besides the split that it came with, it made another split over here. So it split this thing down the middle. And of course, this is all worn out from banging around in there, so that's no good. Transmission. Pawl springs. I find a lot of these broken. I try to change them every time I do a trans because you just never know when they're going to break. But obviously this one's broken. The way they stack up, it's in kind of a confined area. This actually probably wasn't affecting operation. It would eventually, but not right at the moment it wasn't. So yeah, some more destruction. Shifter fork, heavy rubbing. Something was clearly out of whack in there. And there's more. Well, I'll show you now. This is the main shaft low gear. And here's that thrust washer, what's left of it, with that tab that sticks out of the end. Welded. The washer is welded to the gear. And I had tried to pry it off of there because I was thinking about reusing the gear, but it is welded solid. So I was going to take it out to the lathe and see if I could just machine off this washer, what's left of it. Of course, the problem gets to be this is really solidly welded on there. So this got hot enough. This was probably red hot at some point in time. So I got to assume the heat treating of the gear was affected. So even though the teeth are all good, this is getting shit-canned and replaced. Transmission main shaft, totally destroyed over here. The thing that sucks about these things is if anything goes wrong with this race over here, you got to buy a new shaft. So of course he's getting a new shaft, and the shafts can be expensive. So anyway, main shaft no good. This of course is the main shaft race, and all chewed up on the inside, as you would imagine, from, you know, the bearings being busted out of there. So that's obviously no good. This I find, I find this particular part kind of comical in the amount of destruction. This is, of course, the seal retainer for the main shaft, trans main shaft seal. Boy, when that let loose, when those bearings went loose, they must have come out the side and just ripped this all up. So yeah, no good. And let's see, I think I'm going to switch back over to the engine. I showed you in the earlier video a piece of shit clogging up the feed passage on the oil pump. So yeah, here's the pinion shaft. You know, you get these bikes and sometimes, you know, the trans fails. Sometimes the engine fails. This had so many simultaneous failures going on. I just don't know which one is the one that ultimately led to, you know, the bike not running. I got to think this absence of oil pressure was probably a big one. It couldn't have run too long without oil pressure. So there you have it. I don't know, collectively, does this belong in the Hall of Shame? Not really any catastrophic. Well, there's some kind of catastrophic breakages in here. I think as a collection, the collection belongs in the Hall of Shame because this is the most destroyed pieces I think I've removed from any one engine. So this may be the record holder. All right, so what are we doing here today? We're going to put a new race in here. They go in from the inside and they're a pretty tight fit. I tried putting this same, well, not the same race, a different race, but I tried putting a race in, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago, and when I was knocking it in, I managed to crack this flange. So I got another one I'm going to put in, and I'm going to be a lot more careful about it. I think I'm going to go out to the dirty shop and cut a chamfer on the leading edge of this thing to help get it started. And I think I'm going to make a little bit of a bushing or a driver, and I might rig it up so that I could put the bushing in from the back, put a threaded rod through the middle of it, and just wrench it into the hole. So let's go make a couple of things, or at least one thing, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, this is hardened. I've got a carbide insert in here, and I just want to put a little chamfer on this corner. Wow, that's cool. Nice. Yeah, that's all it needs, just a little bit. All right, I got a random chunk of aluminum out of my scrap pile. And we're just going to flatten off one end, and we're going to make a a holder for this race so that I could drive it in without fucking it up this time or the next time here. All right, I'm going to be aiming for a diameter of 290 or 295, I think. And that'll work. Perfect. Here's the tool I just made, the installer. The race fits over that. This all goes inside the crankcase. We're going to put just a end on it here, and we're going to tighten it in. We're just going to pull it in with this threaded rod, I hope. So hopefully this method will just pull it in nice and even, I hope. You know, and it's a hard area. I mean, you can't really see the thing inside there. It feels too tight to me right now. Yeah, and indeed it's going in a little crooked. So I'm going to try to adjust the trajectory by tapping it a little. I don't think that helped, so I'm going to knock it out and start over again. I don't want to fuck up another one of these things. Alright, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try to tap it in there a little bit and try to get it in straight this time. Alright, that looks straighter. Let's see how it pulls. Man, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, it's not straight. Let's knock it out again. Going to give it a few taps. Looks crooked still to me. That doesn't feel good. Yeah, definitely crooked. I really don't want to break another one of these, that's for sure. Well, that pretty much straightened it out. Alright, I got the case laying over on its side. That's still too crooked for me. Son of a bitch. Well, it's sort of straightened it out. Well, that's looking pretty good. Might be. That might be working. Ooh. I think it's in there. Give it another little tappy too. Yeah, I think we got it. Yeah. Perfect. Okay, the race is in. As you may recall from one of the earlier videos, the left case half is a new old stock case half, and it came with the trapdoor fitted to it. I have never installed one of these races that didn't need to be lapped to size to get the bearings in. These are always much smaller on the inside than they need to be to get the bearings in. So we're going to do some lapping, and the lapping is going to do two things. It's going to ensure that this hole is concentric with the main shaft bearing on the left-hand side case trapdoor, and it's going to bring this out to size. So I'm going to measure the shaft, I'm going to measure some bearings, I'm going to measure the race, I'm going to get the lapping stuff out, and I'll show you the process. All right, here's the setup for working on this race. You're going to need a 1 to 2 inch micrometer. You're going to need a 0 to 1 inch micrometer. You're going to need a telescoping gauge or a snap gauge, as some people call it. And of course, you're going to need the shaft. You want to take a measurement of the race. And when I do that, I come up with 1.302 pretty much exactly. You want to measure the shaft where the bearings will ride. I come up with 0.992. You want to measure the bearings. I come up with 0.156. Because there is a bearing on either side of the shaft, you want to multiply it by 2. You want to add in your thousandths of an inch clearance. So anyway, the two bearings are 0.312. And when you install this thing, you got the shaft in the middle, you got the race on the outside, here's a bearing, and here's a bearing. That's why your bearings are times 2. And then you need a thousandth of an inch of clearance in there. The book says 0.0006 to 0.0014 or something like that. So I'm going to shoot for a thou. Anyway, I measured my parts and I come up with 1.305. I measured the race. I come up with 1.302. So in order to get all of this stuff to fit into this hole, I got to remove about 0.003 of an inch of material from the race. And when it comes to lapping, that's a lot of material. I have the lapping tool, which I'm going to show you momentarily, and we're going to use it. Man, you might be able to do this with the brake cylinder hone if you got about 6 hours. Don't even think about trying to sand it or anything goofy like that. The metal is very hard, and you're going to end up with a hole that's not round. So you pretty much have to have the line lapping tools to set this up correctly. So anyway, we're going to be shooting for a diameter 1.305. As I'm lapping, I'm going to be checking the diameter of the hole with the snap gauge and measuring it with this micrometer every so often to see how close we're going to get. And I could, of course, just lap and test fit the bearings, but the hole is going to be full of lapping compound, and you have to clean everything up, and it makes a big mess. So we're going to measure it until I get within like a half a thou or thereabouts, and then I'll start cleaning it up and testing it with the rollers. So yeah, this is not really fun. Having the lapping tools makes it a lot easier though. The trapdoor is installed and bolted down tight. The clutch gear and the bearing is in. This end of the shaft rides where the main shaft would ride. Okay. Underneath the lap there is a tapered shaft, and as you force the lap onto the taper, it expands the lap, and that interference between the lap and the race with the valve lapping compound, or the lapping compound, is what increases your clearance. And just for demonstration purposes, this is what you're after. Of course, it really isn't that easy. Just going to put a little compound on there to get started. And, this is just to get it going, I'm going to be at this for, I suppose, at least 20 minutes or a half hour at least, maybe longer. And you see that was turning pretty easy. So when it starts to turn pretty easy, you tighten this up. And generally I have found that the most you could tighten it is about an eighth, maybe a 16th of a turn is all. And of course, the tighter you get it, the more it's going to drag on the surface. And of course, the more it drags on the surface, the more metal you're cutting. So this is not a fast process at all. And of course, by the time you're done, you're going to be covered with lapping compound. You're going to be filthy. Just kind of the way it is. I'll do a little of this. But I'm not going to video all of it, that's for sure. See, and I'm already starting to get tight in here, which is good because I'm really beginning to move some metal now. And what I've noticed on them is, if you have one that is out of alignment, the lap, like this lap, is turning pretty easily and smoothly all the way around. So I think these two are pretty well aligned. If you have races and bearings that are not aligned, what I find is the lap turns unevenly. It'll be easy, then it'll be hard. It'll be easy, then it'll be hard. So I believe these are probably pretty well lined up, and it's going to be just a matter of getting them out to size. So anyway, that's going to be my my business for the next I don't know, 20-45 minutes. Oh, and one other thing I'll say is the engine is in a stand and it's clamped onto the bench. There's a fair amount of force transmitted through the lap into the case. And if your case is not bolted down tightly, you're not going to be able to do this. So in a stand, clamped to a solid bench so it doesn't move around on you. Anyway, that's all I'm going to show you for now on this. I'll be back, I don't know, and when I'm done or close to getting done, and I'll show you where I'm at. So for now, that's all you're going to see of this. I'll be back later. All right, I've been lapping away over here for, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes. Maybe a little less, maybe a little more. I stopped and took a measurement a while ago, and I had 1,000th to go. And I've cranked the lap in, a little bit tighter, probably 2 more times. So we're going to see where I'm at right now. So I think we can get this out of the way. Wipe the big gob of schmutz off of there. Put the snap gauge in there. And we'll see where I'm at. I just got a gob of lapping compound on the camera. And I am almost exactly 1.305. So we're definitely in the ballpark to get a test fit in on the bearings. All right, the bearings are all stuffed in there. They fit in easily. If you ever have to tap one of these in or force it in any way, it's too tight. You'll ruin it. It'll fail shortly thereafter if you get it together. Anyway, they fit in there nicely, and there is just barely, I don't know if you could see it, but I could barely feel any back and forth wiggle in there. So I'm guessing that's in the neighborhood of a few 10,000ths. The book said 6 to, I think, 1.5 was the clearance on here. And calibrated fingers tell me we're within that ballpark. The measurement tells me we're within that ballpark. So this is good to go. I'm going to take this apart again, clean up all the, do the fine detail cleaning, get all the, the valve grinding, the lapping compound out of there, and get it cleaned up and get ready to start test fitting the transmission. Very happy with this. Worked out pretty well. All right, I'm getting ready to stuff the trans in. I just got done setting the end play on the main shaft. And I was doing it with the counter shaft removed so that it's just easier that way. I'm getting ready to set the counter shaft end play, and I noticed that the space between the counter shaft low gear and the counter shaft third gear is a little big. Well, one thing a guy might want to try to do is put a shorter shifter fork in to move this gear that direction, but then this will get too far away. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two thrust washers off and find one that's about 20 thousandths of an inch thinner, and I think that'll correct this problem. And just FYI, I've looked at all these gears pretty carefully. Despite the damage and the trashing on the main shaft, a lot of these gears look like they're brand new. The one thing that concerns me is they don't have part numbers on them. If they were, well, I could tell an Andrews gear because they're made a little bit differently. I could tell an Andrews gear by looking at it, and Andrews gears have numbers on them. These are definitely not Andrews gears. I don't think they're Harley gears either, because the Harley gears would have a Harley number stamped on them usually. So these gears have no numbers. They could be, the Chinese, the Chinesium gears. I don't know that I could guarantee that this trans isn't going to pop in and out of gear, because I've had problems with those Chinese gears. They cut these ramps wrong. The ramps on the dogs are cut wrong, and the ramps on the inside of the receptacle gear are cut wrong, and they tend to pop out of gear. I can't tell the guy, you got to buy, $700 worth of gears, because they might be Chinese. So we're just going to put it together, make sure it shifts on the bench, and keep our fingers crossed. If he's got a problem with it, well, then he's going to have to pull the trans out. But I can't justify spending the money to replace all these gears, because, like I say, they look perfect. Although there's no number stamped on them, so I really don't know where they came from. But anyway, we're going to change up one of these thrust washers, get this spacing the way it's supposed to be, and we're going to truck on. All right, I think I went about, I found a combination of washers that was, probably 20 or 30 thousandths thinner than what was in there. And I'm very happy with the gap now between the countershaft flow and the countershaft third gear. Obviously, before this gets bolted in, we're going to run it through all the gears and make sure everything lines up good and shifts good. Right now, I'm going to be setting the implant on a countershaft. I just randomly selected an 80 thousandths thrust washer, so we'll put it together and see what happens. Popped in that the trans with that 80 thousandths thrust washer on a countershaft. The main shaft is missing, but the clutch gear is engaged to the countershaft through the countershaft drive gear, and it won't rotate. So obviously, the countershaft is hard up against the end of the case, and I'm going to need a thinner washer. So I'll look for probably a 40 thou and give it a try. All right, I think I just put a 25 thou thrust washer on the end of the countershaft, and until you put the bearing in, you could look at the free play through where the bearing goes. So I could push on it from the left side, move it to the right, and then push it back. You could probably hear that chucking back and forth in there. So I'm going to go at least, I think I'm going to go at least 20 thousandths bigger than whatever I put in there last time, and I think we're going to be pretty close with that. Okay, I got this trans set up the way I want to have it set up. The main shaft second gear was a little close to the main shaft clutch gear, so I got a shorter shifter fork. I went with a -10 in here. That moved it over to the left a little bit and moved it a little bit away from the third gear, which is okay. So anyway, let's make sure that it shifts good. We'll go one last time around. First gear goes right in. There's neutral. Second gear goes right back in. Third gear goes right in. Fourth gear goes right in. Back to third. Back to second. Neutral. Whoops, wrong way. Second. First. Back to neutral. Very happy with this. This is going in the bike tonight. And I don't know how much more I'm going to show you tonight, but I'm going to get this in. I gotta get this project rolling again. Like I say, the videos are nice, but at some point I actually have to produce an engine. All right, we're wrapping this up today. I told you I would tell you the weird stuff on this motor. These are the clutch spacers. This one is a standard size one, 1.530. This is what the clutch had in it. It's at least an eighth, maybe 3/16 of an inch shorter than this. And the clutch was also missing that outer thick clutch plate. So, you know, I don't know what people do, why they do it. You know, I don't know. Apparently they took the outer clutch plate off and decided they didn't need as long of a spacer, which of course you wouldn't if you got fewer plates. But anyway, it's got all the correct plates in it now, and it's got all the correct spacers in it now. Who knows? Lower end is all together. Trans is in, clutch is in, primary is in. Everything still rotates just like it's supposed to. So tomorrow, I think we're going to wrap this up. I should be able to put the top end on it and call it a day. But you know what? For now, I am out of here. Y'all, thanks for watching. Take it easy. We'll see you next time. Bye. Just a quick reminder. You can help support and grow this channel, first of all, and most importantly, by hitting that subscribe button. So if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to do a little more, join me on Patreon. Links down below. So go ahead and join me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. And finally, Coffee cups, stickers, and gas tank covers are available. This is a new design coffee cup. I like the old ones, but I like these new ones even better. And to go along with the new design coffee cup, there is a new design sticker. Links will be provided in the description down below. Coffee cups and stickers are included with the Patreon membership. And thank you all ever so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. Bye.